Hi, welcome to Closet Coaching. This question comes from a Patreon member, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it is around, the person said, I've been doing intuitive eating for around 6 months, and I'm having trouble at night with eating, quote unquote, junk food because every time anything crosses my mind, I feel like I have to have it, or else it's restriction. This happens a lot. I hear this a lot. You're not abnormal if this is happening to you, but I will give you some permission. So the reason this is confusing is because many of you have heard of mental hunger, which is that like wanting a food even though you're not necessarily hungry for it, and how it's important to honor mental hunger, especially in the beginning of a recovery process, because that's how we psychologically and biologically like learn that food is there and it's, we're going to get it, we have access. But at some point, it can almost feel like a mind game you're doing. This is what this sounded like in terms of like, just because a food crosses your mind, it's like, I have to have it now or I'm restricting. And it's like this whole, like, it's a boundary setting issue. If you feel truly confident in your recovery thus far and you feel like you understand your signals of hunger and fullness and what satiation feels like, you do not have to eat food just because you've thought of it. I mean, for example, now that we're talking about it, I've now thought about ice cream, my favorite. But I'm not going to go have some because I'm not hungry. I don't need it. Like, it's not a particular craving that I'm having right now. And I'm allowed to think of something and say, no, I mean, yes, it would be delicious. Sure. But I don't need it right now. Like, that's when I want it, I'll have it. But that's not what it is right now. And this is not restriction. This is just a form. It's for fine tuning the way that recovery looks. And this part can be a little tricky. And I know some people get caught in this, but I want to remind you that you are autonomous and that this whole mission here is that you're not a slave to food. So you get to decide when you're satiated enough and when you want to say no. And it doesn't have to always be restricting because you say no to food. Sometimes it's just a no thanks, maybe later, maybe tomorrow. If it's following you around all day and you can't forget about it, that's more mental hunger. But I wouldn't recommend necessarily doing that if you're just beginning this process, because then it's more likely mental hunger, and we want to go with the mental hunger for the beginning. So I hope that's helpful to some of you out there later in your journey who are struggling with feeling like you can't say no to food, because you can. You can say maybe later. Actually, I think that makes people feel better. Nothing wrong with that. It's not restricting. If you need any more help or clarity around that, I'm doing a gentle nutrition group in July. But I know many of you are struggling before that. So I hope this helps.